In this video, I'm going to show you how to multiply mixed numbers. So I'm going to start with 3 and 5/9 times 4 and 4/8. When you're multiplying mixed numbers, the first thing that you're going to want to do is change each mixed number to an improper fraction. So 3 and 5/9 is 3 groups of 9, or 27, plus 5 more groups of 9. So altogether I have 32 ninths. 4 and 4/8 is 4 groups of 8, or 32, plus 4 more 8s. So altogether I have 36 eighths. Once you have changed your mixed numbers to improper fractions, I'm going to rewrite them here. And now I'm going to multiply each of the numerators, and I'm going to multiply each of the denominators. So this becomes my new multiplication problem. As you can see, this problem is going to require quite a bit of calculation if I do it as it is, but oftentimes there is a way that we can make this simpler by doing a process called cross-simplification. Before I show you how to do cross-simplification, I'm going to show you why it works. The commutative property of multiplication tells me that this problem, 32 times 36, is the same thing as 36 times 32, and in the denominator 9 times 8 is equal to 8 times 9. So these two expressions on the left hand side here and on the right hand side here are equivalent expressions. I can also now pull apart this new expression that I just made by saying that this is the same thing as 36 over 8 times 32 over 9. And if we look at this original improper fraction multiplication problem that I have right there and compare that to this new problem that I made right here, you'll notice that the 36 and 32, the numerators have just switched places and the denominators have switched places, so that if we continue to multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators, I would get exactly the same answer. So let me write this new multiplication problem, rewrite this new multiplication problem down below where I have a little bit more room. So I have 36 over 8 times 32 over 9. You can probably see how my first fraction here, 36 over 8, I can simplify. I can pull out a 4 from the numerator and a 4 from the denominator. So my numerator will become 9, because 9 times 4 is 36. And my denominator will become 2, because 2 times 4 equals 8. So I have a new fraction of 9 over 2. So this becomes my new problem now, 9 over 2 times 32 over 9. Now in my second fraction, 32 over 9, there is not any common factors. However, I can again rearrange my fractions, my numerators and my denominators, according to the commutative property of multiplication. So I can take this and change it to 32 times 9 over 2 times 9, which becomes, let me rewrite this down below, this becomes 32 over 2 times 9 over 9. And now I might notice that in both of my fractions I have common factors. In this fraction on the left I have a common factor of 2, so if I pull out a 2, this is 16, and this becomes a 1. And on the right hand side I have a common factor of 9, so if I pull out a 9, this becomes a 1, and this becomes a 1. So now my new fractions are 16 over 1 times 1 over 1, so my answer is 16. Now at this point you're probably thinking that what I just did was way more work than just going back to my original problem and multiplying 32 times 36 and multiplying 9 times 8 and then doing some division and some simplification. But there actually is an easier way of doing this. So let me scroll up again, give myself some more room. If I go back to that first problem, which was 32 times 36 over 9 times 8. I can simplify directly within that problem because I know I can pull these numbers apart and I know that I can rearrange them because of the commutative property. I can simply do something called cross simplification. So I'm going to simplify diagonally like this, and 36 and 9 both share a common factor of 9. So 36 divided by 9 is 4, and 9 divided by 9 is 1. 32 and 8, this direction, both share a common factor of 8. So 32 divided by 8 is 4, and 8 divided by 8 is 1. So now my problem becomes 4 times 4, which equals 16, and 1 times 1 is 1. So my answer again is 16. Cross simplification will only work when one of the numbers in your numerator and one of the numbers in your denominator share a common factor, but it does make sense to take the time to look for that because it'll save you a lot of unnecessary large multiplication and large division problems that are very time consuming and can create a lot of unnecessary opportunities for mistakes. Let's look at another example of multiplying mixed numbers. Let's do 6 and 3/4 times 7 and 2/6. So my first step will be to change both my mixed numbers to improper fractions. My first one, I have 6 groups of 4, which is 24, plus 3 more groups, which gives me altogether 27 groups of 4, or 27/4. My second mixed number, I have 7 groups of 6, 42, plus 2 more, gives me altogether 44 groups of 6, or 44/6. So my problem becomes 27 times 44 over 4 times 6 when I multiply the numerators and the denominators. Now I do see some common factors in my numerator, of the numbers in my numerator and my denominator, so I am going to do some cross simplification. Starting this diagonally, I see a common factor of 4, so when I pull that out I have 11 in my numerator and a 1 in my denominator. This direction I see a common factor of 3. When I pull that out I get a 9 here and a 2 here. I don't see any other common factors between my numerator and my denominator, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply. So I'm going to do 9 times 11 and 1 times 2. So I have 99 over 2. And then when I change that back to a mixed number, I get 49 and 1/2. Here is another example of multiplying mixed numbers. Let's do 2 and 4/5 times 4 and 2/7. Change to improper fractions. On the left hand side I have 2 groups of 5, or 10, plus 4 more. So altogether I have 14/5. On the right hand side I have 4 groups of 7, 28, plus 2 more. These are sevenths, so altogether I have 30/7. My problem then becomes 14 times 30 over 5 times 7. I'm going to look for any opportunities to simplify before I work out this multiplication problem. And I see a common factor of 30 in 30 and 5 of 5. 5 goes into 30 6 times, and 5 goes into 5 1 time. I see another common factor. 14 and 7 both share 7 as a factor. 7 goes into 14 twice and into 7 once. So my new problem becomes 2 times 6 over 1 times 1, which is 12 over 1, or 12. Not all multiplication of mixed numbers will be quite as easily simplified as these last few examples. So let's see if we can do one that is not quite as simple. Let's do 4 and 3/9 times 5 and Let's do 1/6. So if I'm simplifying, or if I'm changing these to improper fractions, I have 4 groups of 9, or 36, plus 3 more. So altogether I have 39 ninths. And I have 5 groups of 6, or 30, plus 1 more, which is 31/6. So when I look at this problem, I have 39 times 31 over 9 times 6. In this case, if I look diagonally this direction, there are no common factors. 31 is prime, and it is not divisible by 6. However, this other direction, there are common factors. The common factor is 3. So if I pull out a 3, this becomes 13, and this becomes 2. So unfortunately, in this problem, I now have to do 13 times 31 and 9 times 2. And the only way that I could do that is through just common multiplication, and then I'm going to have to do some division and possibly some simplification. So when I'm doing this, I'm going to have to go ahead and do my multiplication. So my numerator is 403. My denominator is 9 times 2, which is 18. And now I'm going to have to do some division in order to get my my improper fraction here back into a mixed number. So if I go up here, 403 divided by 18. 18 goes into 40 twice, and then into 43 also twice. And I have a remainder of 7. So my answer is 22 and 7/18. I do want to point out that if I look back at my original fraction here, 39 over 9, I could have simplified this fraction before I even began. 39 and 9 both share a common factor of 3. So if I had simplified before I began, this would have been 13, and this would have been 3. So then what I would have done was 13 times 31, same as what I got when I did cross simplification. I would have done 3 times 6. Notice that 3 times 6 is the same thing as 9 times 2. So you can either do cross simplification whenever possible, or you can also try to simplify your fractions before you even begin. Let's look at one last example. Let's do 7 and 2/4 times 2 and 5/6. So change each of these to improper fraction. I have 7 groups of 4, which is 28, plus 2 more. These are fourths, so I have 30/4. I have 2 groups of 6, or 12, plus 5 more. These are 6, so I have 17/6. My problem becomes 30 times 17 over 4 times 6. And I could have simplified before I even began right here, because that fraction, 30 and 4, are both divisible by 2. But I'm going to go ahead and do cross simplification. I see this direction, I share a common factor of 6. So I can pull out a 6, this becomes a 5, this becomes a 1. My problem is now 5 times 17 over 4 times 1. 5 times 17 is 85 over 4. And now I just need to change back to a mixed number. And I have 4 goes into 5 once. So I have left over 21 and 1/4.